What's going on? Welcome back to another vlog with your boy Chris. Welcome back to the channel. Again, if you are new, welcome to the channel. If you are not new, welcome back for another vlog. Make sure you hit the like button, smash the subscribe, turn on your bell notifications because we're dropping content all the time, buckaroo. On that note, stay tuned because we're going to talk about why I disagree with leasing cars. I don't believe in leases. I never have. I never will believe in them. For some people, I don't know, some people justify it and say that it makes sense. I don't understand them. I never have, I never will. I look at a lease as the same as a rental. It's just obviously the cheaper option between leasing and renting a car. It's the way cheaper option because you're gonna end up paying, especially on an exotic, you're gonna end up paying crazy amounts of money at the end of the month if you're renting a car every single day. But I don't believe in leasing cars. Reason being is because people don't want to buy cars because they're depreciating assets, but at the end of the day, whether you're an entrepreneur, you have a 9-to-5 job, whatever the case is, however you make your money, we've learned in 2020 that there is no security with anything, because anything like what has happened the last 9 months or 8 months, however long it's been, can happen again. And we've already learned once that there's no security in that. Even the wealthiest people in the world, maybe not like the top 10 wealthiest people, but majority of the population of the world was impacted by this in some way, shape, or form, and was affected in a negative way monetarily wise because of this. Some people benefit from it. Some people, I don't really think a lot of people's business stayed the same. I think that you either benefited because you were somehow in an industry that had to do with what's been going on, or you just took a hit. So in that case, you have to look at cars that, yes, they are depreciating assets. Some of them, if you buy the right car and it's something that's a limited edition, or it's an older car that has historical value, then that car could appreciate over time. It could actually make you money down the road, right? But even if a car does appreciate, I think that it's always better to buy a car that you can pay for twice fully. Like, you shouldn't be buying a $200,000 car or even a $20,000 car if you only have $30,000, right? That doesn't make sense. Like, you should be able to buy whatever you're buying, whether it's a car or any other materialistic object. You should be able to you should have the money set aside to be able to buy that thing twice. Because if you don't, then you obviously can't afford it. You're living out of your means, you're living above your means, whatever the saying is, and it's just a decision that you shouldn't be making. Now, with buying a car, yes, they're depreciating assets, but this is the way that I've looked at it since I was a young age, and this is the way that I'll always look at it, that regardless of how much money that car is losing, at the end of the day, that's something that you can liquidate. Say you're an entrepreneur, you have a business car, and you're like, oh, well, you know what, you're just starting off, you're buying a car for business expenses, whatever it is. Oh, I can write the lease off, and this and that and the other, or I can buy the car in full and have that money sitting in the car, right? Now, if you have a lease and you lose everything, your business goes bankrupt, or you have a 9-to-5 job and you lose your job, you now have a payment that you can no longer keep up with, right? You have a payment you can't keep up with. You have something that's sitting there that's not going to bring any money to you whatsoever when you get rid of it, because you're going to have to get rid of it if you can't afford the monthly payment. Whereas if you have a car that, even if it's depreciating every year, that car, $100,000 car, you lose your business, you lose everything, you go and sell, say those cars are reselling for $100,000 right now, you go sell it next week for $70,000, and you take that money and now you restart life with $70,000 as opposed to restarting life with nothing. And some people say, well, yeah, but I could put that in real estate and this and that and the other. But again, you could, and if you have multiple streams of passive income, then that's a different story. But majority of people don't. Majority of the people watching this don't have passive income. They don't even have one stream of passive income that's making them money. And if you don't know what passive income is, that's money that's being generated while you're not doing anything. It's just making money on its own, right? So that could be real estate, that could be a e-commerce business that no longer needs you to be part of it, that it's all automated, or whatever the case is. There's so many different ways to make passive income. Trading, long-term trades, where there's guys that take trades for a few days. You're in a trade and you just let the trade sit there, and you wake up every day and it's in profit more and more, hopefully, right? So it's passive income. But if you get into a situation where you need to restart because you've lost everything or you lost your job, you now have a car that you can't afford, you have a payment you can't afford, you're going to be living way above your means, you're going to have an insurance payment that you can't afford. Even if you own the car and you don't want to fire sale it and get rid of it to make some quick money, you cancel the insurance, you park the car, put a tarp over it, and wait until you can afford to drive that car again, if that's what you want to do. But at the end of the day, that money is always going to be sitting there, and it's always going to be, it's a depreciating asset. It's an asset, but it's a depreciating asset. It's not a liability. A lease is a liability, financing a car is a liability, renting a car is a liability. Anything that has a monthly payment, whether it's jewelry or clothes, and realistically, like if you're putting jewelry and clothes on a credit card, that's a monthly payment, that's a liability, right? A credit card is a liability, it's not an asset, it's not making you money. It cannot produce money out of nowhere, so that it's just a liability. That's all it is. A credit card's a liability. So if you're buying materialistic stuff or material stuff, shoes, clothes, jewelry, anything that's not a necessity to survive, it's just simply a liability. Now food is like a different story, because like we need food to survive, right? A house over your head, you need it to survive. But again, I don't believe in mortgages either, and that I will talk about in the next vlog, or one of the next vlogs. But I don't believe in mortgages. I just don't believe in monthly payments. I think that if you have to pay something on a monthly payment, then you're most likely living above your means, and that doesn't include a rental, like your house where you're living. If you're renting it, obviously, because like again, you need shelter, you need a roof over your head, and you need to be living somewhere, right? But the difference between now a rental and a mortgage is, say the economy goes to shit, you have a rental, you can just like, there might be repercussions, but you can just like get up and leave if you can't afford it anymore, right? You go live somewhere where you're living within your means now. Say you're paying $2,500 a month, you lose your job and the economy goes to shit, you can't find another job, but you have some money put away that you can survive in a $1,000 place, then you leave that place, you go to a $1,000 place, and a rental property isn't, the rental property that you're living in isn't a liability. It's just where you're living, and that's it, because you have no attachment to it. You can leave at any point in time. Whereas if you have a mortgage and you have a house that you're living in, or a condo that you're living in, and you have a mortgage, that again is a liability, just like financing a car, just like leasing a car, just like renting a car. Because, okay, maybe not renting a car because you have no attachment to it, you can kind of just get rid of it, but even leasing, you have to find someone to take over your lease, or you're gonna take it, if you go to return the car before the lease, you're gonna have a penalty on it, right? You're gonna have to pay a fee, and then now you're gonna have to be paying a fee that you can't afford, so on and so forth. A rental, you're either renting it by the day, by the week, by the month, whatever it is, however much you pay for is what you get the car for, so on and so forth, and that's it, right? So anything that you have a monthly payment on, anything that is not, I guess, resaleable, you can't resell it, whatever the word is that I'm looking for, that can bring you money, is a liability. That's plain and simple, and you should be minimizing as many liabilities as possible. And even if it's a depreciating asset, it's better to have a depreciating asset than a liability, because again, you can take that, you can go sell it, restart your life, just go do whatever you have to do and move forward in life, right? Whereas if you're renting or you're leasing something, it's a liability. It's not really yours. I don't really believe in like a lease being some people might get offended by this, but I don't believe a leased car is that person's. Like, they're paying to have that car for that period of time, but I don't believe that like something's not yours until it's fully paid for. That's the way I look at it. Some of you might disagree. You can leave a comment down below if you feel like it and let me know your thoughts on it. But I just personally think that like a lease it's not yours. It's the same as like chartering a jet and saying that the jet's yours, right? It's not really yours. You're paying for the time period in that jet. You're paying for the time period on the lease, whether it's a 2-year lease or a 3-year lease, and that's it. And like during that period, it's just a really cheap rental. That's all a lease is. It's you're renting the car for really cheap, so on and so forth. But again, it just becomes a liability. It becomes another headache that could be possibly added to your plate that you don't need. And I'd personally I would rather own a $50,000 car than lease a $200,000 car, because like that car is yours. Again, you can take that money, go do whatever you want with it, go fucking drive it off a cliff and nobody can say anything to you. Where if you're leasing a car, you smash it, you still need to, you owe the money on a lease, right? You have to get out of that lease and you have to pay the penalty on that lease, whatever the case is. Well, I just personally, if you can't buy the thing twice, you're living out of your means, you're living above your means, whatever the hell it is, you're living out of your tax bracket, and there's no reason for doing that. I think after 2020 and what everyone's experienced and seen this year, that this should be a time that everyone starts shifting into a different perspective and into a different state of mind, that it's better to have things that are paid for, even if they're sitting there collecting dust, than have a monthly payment that you have to A, remember to do, B, you have to stay on top of, C, you have to make sure you have that money at the end of every month to pay for that. Whereas like if something's paid for, it's paid for. It's just like you don't use it, it's sitting there collecting dust. There's nothing in the back of your head that's saying, oh shit, like I'm an entrepreneur, I have my own business, I need to make sure I make $2,500 a month to pay this car this month, or I need to make sure I have $3,000 or $4,000 a month to pay my mortgage, or $1,500 a month to pay my mortgage, or $1,000 a month or $500 a month to pay my car lease. Like it's added stress that we don't need, because realistically they're not necessities. A car is not a necessity, right? Owning a house isn't a necessity. You could rent a house, and now you're back to square one where you have no liabilities. You're not tied to the property. You can't, at the end of the day, if you have to leave a rental because you can't afford it, whereas like a mortgage, you owe the bank money, you now have to make sure that you make that payment, or else it's going to go to collections and this and that and the other, so on and so forth. So I think that 2020 needs to be a year of people realizing that they need to live within their means, and they need to make the right decisions that are going to protect them and benefit them 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years from now, and not just live for the next like 2 or 3 months. You're just doing something to fill a void in your life somewhere along the line, which should be healed before you go and make big grand purchases or do anything like that. So I hope that this was informative. I hope it gave you some insight as to why I do certain things, because I've had people ask why I've never leased cars and why I don't believe in leasing cars, because I've talked about it briefly on like Instagram before. And like always, hit the like button, smash the subscribe, turn on your bell notifications, and let me know down in the comments below what you would like to see in future vlogs, what sort of content you guys are looking forward to me making. I have a lot of plans for the channel. I have a lot of content that I just brainstormed. I'm always writing down and thinking of ideas for the future, so I'm looking forward to what the next few months hold in store. I thank you guys for everyone that's subscribed, everyone that likes the videos, watches them. We're almost at 10,000 subs, which I don't know why it's so, Instagram and YouTube are such different communities. I personally prefer YouTube. I just think it's more interactive and it's more like a family. Whereas like Instagram's just, I don't know, Instagram's Instagram, maybe because I've been on there for so long. But I appreciate you regardless. I appreciate everyone on Instagram, everyone on YouTube. I appreciate all the subs, all the love, all the positive messages that I get, that I somehow inspire you or help you want to live a better life. I love you guys. I hope you had an awesome Thursday. Hope you had an awesome week so far, and I will see you on next week's vlog. Peace!